Okay, so we're going to have a little look at variables today. So, as I've written here, think of a variable as a container that holds a value. So, for example, like a little box, and you can put something in that box, and we can use that in our program anytime we want. So, it could be an integer. So, for example, there's an integer, okay, 23, no speech marks, so it's a variable. So it's an integer. We could put a string in a variable. So, for example, if I do this, that is a string and that is assigned to the variable name. And then I can use that anywhere in my program. What we're going to look at here is we're going to look at integer variables. Okay. So the reason we're using integer variables is we're going to do some mathematics, some calculation on that number there. Now, if that number was a string like that, we couldn't do any calculations on it because you can't do a calculation using a string. So we have to make sure it's an integer, so therefore no speech marks. So what I've said here, eggs is going to be 23. Okay, we'll say 23p for argument's sake, but if I put a p there, I'm going to get an error. So I have to use an integer, a whole number. And I've done print eggs. So when I run this, it should print 23 because that is the price of eggs. There we go, just there. So can we then change the price of eggs to 49? So have a think about how you do that. Okay. Now, could we then add a string? The price of eggs is 49. Okay. So what we want is something like the price of eggs can't spell, is, and then we got to think about what we want here in that space. Okay, we will also need to put a small bit of punctuation in between the string and whatever it is we're putting there. So have a think about what that would be. Okay, now number 3, quite a tricky one. I'm not going to go into that in any detail right now, but is there a way of formatting our integer so we can get the p sign right next to it? Okay. If you're not sure about that one, just skip that one for the moment because that's quite tricky. Okay. Next step, can we add a new variable and set it to 80? So I'm not going to do bacon, but I'm just going to do toast. And you can figure out how to do bacon yourself. So I'm going to set toast to 10. Okay, so here I've added a new variable and I've given it the integer 10. Okay, because they're both integers, we can add them together. Okay, so for example, if I did print toast plus eggs, okay, and then ran it, we should get the result of that integer, 33. Okay, so 23 plus 10. Now, here, what you sometimes see is people actually writing the integers themselves rather than the variable. Okay, so you still get the same result, but the problem is if I then change the price of something, okay, and then run it, you can see that the calculation doesn't update. Okay, so the price of eggs is now 49 and toast is 10, so that should say 59. But because we've used the raw integers, it's not updating. So you've always got to make sure that you use the variable names when you're doing calculations, because if you change the values of those variables, then it's not going to update. Okay, so you can see there now it's updated. All right. So have a little go at these ones. Okay. And then we've got a print statement down here. So can we then print a string? The price of eggs and bacon together is, and then the correct integer. So think about, again, like we said before, how would we do that? So the price of eggs and bacon is, okay, and then we'd have to put a bit of punctuation there, and then what would we put there? Okay, so have a little think about that. Okay, and what should happen if you've done it right, if we change the price of the variables up here, then everything should auto update. You should get the right price. If you're happy with that, let's add some more items to the shopping list. Okay, I've put in toast, you could put tomatoes, whatever, and then can we print the total cost of everything? So we get how much all of our items cost. So have a little go of variables, okay? And remember, for the variables, we're using integers, so not strings, so not with the speech marks, okay? If you do happen to use variables by accident, okay, so we're going to add, strings by accident, we're going to add the two strings together, 10 and 29. Let's see what happens down here when I run it. It's not going to give us what we expect, okay. Oh, that's my line down there. I'm going to get rid of that quickly because that's causing a problem. So if I run that with the two strings, 10 and 29, you can see it's literally just added the two strings together rather than done the calculation. So always make sure when we're doing this, we're using integers. Okay.